So, we have to talk about someone that we haven't spoken about in a really long time. Gabbie Hanna. This is a bit of old stale tea, but honestly, I haven't seen too many people bring it up, so we're gonna talk about it. Over a month ago now, Daniel Prada, who is Joey Graceffa's ex-boyfriend, posted a video called Answering Questions I've Avoided Post-Breakup. Joey and Daniel broke up this year, so I feel like this video was Daniel's chance to spill all of the tea that he's been holding in on YouTubers. Anyways, one of the questions that someone asked was, who was your least favorite person on Escape the Night?
Our next question is, who is your least favorite person on Escape the Night?
Escape the Night is a web series hosted by Joey, and they've had a ton of really popular YouTubers on the show. For example, Tana Mojo, Tyler Oakley, Colleen, Manny, Nikita, Gabbie. At least one of your favorite YouTubers has probably been on Escape the Night, which means this question opened up a lot of possibilities as to who Daniel's least favorite YouTuber on the show was. But this isn't like a normal YouTuber clickbait video where someone asks a juicy question and they avoid answering it. Daniel came right on out and said Gabbie Hanna. He said some people came on set with a really bad attitude, thought they were the biggest star in the room, and acted messy and fussy. He claims he had issues with Sophia Nygaard and says that he's not really a big fan of her. He says she didn't promote the show at all when she was on it and says that's gross, and it was also a part of the contract to promote the show.
I don't remember having any issues other than Sophia, who I'm not really a big fan of, but again, I don't care. Also, she didn't promote the show at all when she was on, and that's gross to me. It was part of the contract to promote it, and you're part of an amazing show that's the #1 show on YouTube. Like, why wouldn't you promote it? Aren't you proud of your work and being on it?
Daniel goes on to say that she might have felt like she wasn't gaining enough from the show, or maybe she was upset that she didn't win, but that's just how he saw it. He says in season 2 and 4 he had major issues with Gabbie Hanna. Daniel claims that they've always had a very volatile relationship, but she was miserable to work with. Apparently in season 4, she was a nightmare to work with, and he claimed that there was a lot of diva antics, yelling and screaming, and she made everyone miserable. He also says that she made him cry.
And then season 4, Gabbie, I had issues with her a lot. I also had issues with her on season 2. She was miserable to work with for the most part. And then season 4, she was a fucking nightmare. I'm not going to expand upon that because I don't really care anymore. It was just hard. There were a lot of diva antics. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of unprofessional behavior. It was miserable, but it turned out entertaining on the show, so I can't really hold that against her. I mean, she definitely did make me cry once.
Daniel goes on to say that if you see people in the industry that aren't well liked and don't have a lot of friends, there's always a reason why they don't. He says this isn't a new thing for Gabbie, and the person who usually cries wolf is normally the wolf themselves. Daniel's series of events kind of line up with what Joey actually said in a podcast with Trisha earlier this year. Back in January, Joey went on Trisha's podcast and they talked about some tea involving Escape the Night. Joey said that season 4 was also by far his worst season ever to film because one person made it hell for everyone. Joey told Trisha that he could have exposed this person with receipts and everything, but he chose to just stay out of it.
Oh, there was one in season 4 too.
Really?
Sure. Yeah, that was season 4 was my least favorite to film by far.
Why?
Just because
Drama.
of this one person on the cast who just made it hell.
Really? And how do you stay out of like not talking about drama? You never talk about things. I would call people out left, right, and center.
No, honestly, I could have, and I could have like exposed a lot of receipts, but
yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't put out that energy.
So yeah, let's talk about this. The Sophia thing was kind of shocking for me. I mean, everyone has their own taste when it comes to the type of person that they get along with, but I just really can't see someone not liking her enough to actually mention it in a video. Daniel also says that she didn't promote the show, but just looking at her Twitter alone, she actually did promote the show twice. I don't know if the contract asked for a video promo or what, but she definitely did promote it somewhat. As for the Gabbie Hanna part, yeah, I've definitely heard the same type of story before from other YouTubers. Maybe Gabbie was just having a bad day or week or year, but it definitely didn't shock me to hear his experience. But once again, maybe Gabbie and Daniel have two conflicting personalities that just don't mesh well. Anyways guys, what do you think about this situation? Were you surprised to hear Daniel bring up Gabbie and Sophia's name? Moving on, let's talk about Jeffree Star. Now, Jeffree Star has been in the news a lot recently, for some reasons more serious than others. Well, Jeffree decided to go on Ryland Adam's new podcast called The Sip. This was definitely interesting because it was the first time we were actually seeing Jeffree with either Shane or Ryland since the drama went down this past summer. You can probably guess what was talked about in this episode. The drama. Jeffree and Ryland said 2020 has tried everyone, which is definitely true. You know, 2020 has been pretty horrible, but not for the reasons I think they're referring to. Ryland says during the drama, he and Shane got to step back and reflect and take a break from the internet pretty much. But Ryland says for someone like Jeffree Star, who has a business to run, that's not really possible.
I wanted to know throughout all of drama, like I know Shane and I could take a moment. We took a breath, we stopped working for a while, really like got to reflect and decide how we wanted to move forward. And I think for someone like you, it's not really an option when you have hundreds of employees and different launches piling up that you have to carry on.
Ryland asked Jeffree how he pushed through that time.
Let's talk about it.
How did you push through it? And I mean,
He's like blunt.
Jeffree claims the level of hate was intense, and he says he's never been through that before. He said instead of waking up to people loving him and supporting him, it just completely switched. I kind of feel like this podcast was almost set up to make Jeffree and Shane and everyone who was involved in the situation seem like a victim.
Easy to forget when you're being attacked on such a public scale by so many people that there's also a huge amount of people who love you.
Yes. And for
who-
some reason you
yeah.
forget.
It's so easy because they're not as loud because they get shut down or whatever. But
it's scarier to defend as well.
yeah.
It is.
I know Jeffree said he wasn't doing this to play the victim, but when this is kind of your first time addressing things on a huge platform since his last apology video, which by the way wasn't well perceived at all, how else do they expect people to view it? I feel like if they really wanted to do a podcast together, then maybe they should have just left out the drama entirely and talked about other things. But what do you guys think about the situation? Do you think Ryland was trying to make Jeffree seem like a victim to the drama? Speaking of Jeffree Star, Insider posted an article saying that Jeffree has finally sold his pink bubblegum mansion. But instead of making a profit from the sale, Jeffree actually lost money. According to Insider, Jeffree sold his house for $220,000 less than what he paid for it back in 2016. The article reads, "The bubblegum walls, drapes, and chandeliers served as a backdrop to many of Star's YouTube videos from 2016 and December 2019, after which he moved to a $14.6 million, 25,000 square foot mega mansion in LA's Hidden Hills. Star left behind a giant vault in his old home where he kept his designer clothing collection, including hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly millions, worth of Birkin bags. Weirdly, the vault is not present in the listing." Star's pink house was home to him, his ex-boyfriend Nate, and their many Pomeranians. The dogs moved to the Hidden Hills estate with Star, but Nate did not. So apparently he ended up selling his home to an orthopedic surgeon who either really loves the color pink or will be getting the entire house. The article goes on to read, "Star may be relieved that he managed to sell the house at all, as there aren't too many buyers looking for a Mediterranean-style Calabasas mansion whose insides have been hydro-dipped in bubblegum pink." But as the Daily Mail reports, it's unclear if the couple who purchased the home really love the color pink or have renovations in mind. So yeah, I wonder if the fact that his house was completely pink made the value of the home drop, or if the coronavirus had something to do with it. Then again, it's not every day that someone's looking to spend millions on a pink home in Calabasas, so maybe that's the reason why.